Hey guys, Chris Dunn here, aka the Boogeyman. On this episode of Boogie Tech, Intakes 101. Alright, I had a couple of weeks ago, a guy left in the comments, he seen my bread box sitting in the background in my engine room, and he made the comment he'd love to see inside of it and see inside of some of like what the guys at the SEG are doing to make so much performance out of the bread box. Well, you can't never see inside of mine. I mean, I'd almost have to fight somebody before I let them see inside of mine, because we've did a lot of modifications and tuning inside my intake that that I don't think nobody else has got. At least that's what I'm going to go with. So you'll never see inside of mine. But I will give you the gist of what's going on inside of these intakes. It's not really rocket science. It ain't really complicated. It's pretty straightforward and common sense. So what we're going to start with first is we're going to look at some factory ones right here and right here. And these are the TR1s, Edelbrocks, best known as a bread box because it looks like an old bread box. This one right here I'm going to show you, this is an old school trick some people used to do to these things, which is kind of funny to me, but it's kind of cool. They did some in this one right here too. What you got here is mine that I run on the Boogeyman, and we build this in-house. We do everything but the final porting. We send that out to Bobby McAllister, which is one of the best in the country. We do all the fabrication, we do the roughing, he does the final, and then, you know, he's the man. He's the one that makes that thing make power. This is the intake I took off. This is a Victor Ram. I don't quite, these get penalized 100 pounds at the SEG and them don't. I know why you'd want to do that. Quayne likes these right here, and I do too. I think these look so much better than these, but you can make more power with these than you can with this, because you can do so much inside of a bread box. It's almost like you got a blank canvas to build any design port system you want inside. Where this Victor Ram, you're kind of just stuck with what they got, hoping the runners ain't too big, hoping the runners are the right length, and you're more free to be more creative in a bread box. So stay tuned. I'm gonna walk you through these things and give you the gist of what you need to do to make your bread box perform better. Stay tuned. Here we go. Alright guys, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the factory bread boxes. Now this right here is a factory bread box that somebody, this is old school modifying of these bread boxes. And what they would do, the plenums are so big on these things, they'll show you how cool this is. This is old school. So used to, people would fill up the bread boxes with a fiberglass resin and fiberglass to try to cut the plenum volume down, which is pretty damn neat and pretty inventive back in the day. So when I found this one, it had all this done, which I think is cool, which we'll have to get out of there because, you know, we want the top and we'll have to get this dug out somehow. Now, the other thing that they do a lot of is this right here. I've seen quite a few of these with a plate. They take this plate and make it and put in here. And what they're trying to do is to get rid of this plenum volume here. That is, it don't work good. The fuel puddles real bad in here. And it's so much plenum. Time you take the top and you take the bottom, the plenum volume is off the charts. And it just don't perform good. So a lot of people would make these plates like this right here. Okay, and they'd seal off the plenum, which it's kind of crazy to me, but hey, they're trying to be inventive. You can't knock them for that. All right. Now, I've also seen people go in here and weld a plate around in here and seal off the plenum, which looks very neat, very good looking work, and I think that would probably help some. I've never tried one of these with this welded off and just do some port work here, because the runner would be so much longer if you left this like it is. All right. Now, here's another factory one, okay? And what I mean by the plenum volume of the top, look how big the top is here. So they filled that up with fiberglass trying to get the plenum volume away. Follow me? So that's the reason they did all the fiberglass work. See how thick the plenum is? All right. It's so big. Same thing again. When I got this one, somebody had put a plate in here trying to get rid of that plenum volume, and I don't know what they was thinking. They didn't really do the best job in the world, but hey, it don't matter. We're not going to use it anyway, and there's some aluminum to make us something else. So that's pretty much what they're doing. Now, let's go back to here. This is the very first, unless I'm wrong, and I don't think I am because I was one of the few people at the SEG in the beginning. This is the first modified bread box to ever, race at the SEG. This is the intake that I had on the 18-degree engine in 2015 when we debuted the car. All right, and the reason is I wanted that old school look, so I bought a bread box, modified it. I actually made all new flanges, and if you see right here, this is actually a piece, and it's welded right across here. And I fitted this to the 18-degree, fitted all this up, blended it, and did all of the port work and everything, which was very crappy, and I didn't have no clue what I was doing except what I had researched. But what I've done here, basically, is what they're doing now. Basically, they're machining the ports. You come in here at an angle, and you just machine the ports down like this. You put a plate in here, and then you can do whatever you want here. Now, please don't laugh. This is my very first intake I ever modified. There's so much wrong with it, it ain't even funny. It's amazing it made the power it did. Sharp edge, that's not right. Everything should be nice and rounded. Should never have sharp edges in an intake because it directs air, and when it directs the air like that, it separates the fuel in the air. So that's a no-no. Always nice round radiuses on everything. But you get the gist of what they're doing. Now, what's so good about the bread boxes is they have so much room inside to do so many different things. You can have this plate design, but overall, everybody's going to do this right here. Except they may come up flat and drop down to put their ports this way. Or they may go down and flatten out and bring this down and make this a little flatter. That's just the engine builder who's building the intake's preference. But overall, this is all they're doing to a bread box to get the performance out of it that they're getting. Basically, you are copying the inside of a Victor Ram. That is what you're doing. You're basically copying something similar to what's inside of a Victor Ram, and that's what you're doing to the bread boxes to make them perform like you want them. Except the bread box has a major advantage, this does, over that. Because you're not limited to what you can do so much in here and be so creative to make power. You do not have that option there. So the bread box is a more superior intake than the Victor Ram because you can do so much to the bread box. The one thing that we do, we spread the ports out. If you see, that's welded and moved back. That's actually the top off of this intake. I've been running the same top since 2015. That's the original top I done. Normally it was on here, and I just run it on every intake I build. I just keep the top the same. Basically, we have to spread these bosses. So you cut these bosses loose here and here. You move it back about a half this way, about a half that way. Make sure, because your carburetors, when you put them in line like we have to run them, they'll hit. The bowls will hit, especially when you got metering blocks in them. So you have to come back and spread that. But that is a good thing, because once you spread this, if you'll notice how close the intake runners are to the edge. So basically, when you line this up, you actually put the carburetor more over the intake runners here and more over the intake runners here. So it's actually a good thing that you spread this. I'll just tell you the truth on this. Last year, I had this intake on, and this intake was built but being ported. When we went to Florida last year, first SEG race, we had a 100-pound penalty on us because of this intake, and this intake wasn't ready yet. When I got back on Easter of last year, I went and spent 2 days on the dyno at Carburetor Bob's, took this intake off, had already took it off, put this one on, and this intake here makes 26 more horsepower than that intake. So that intake makes no sense to run because you're going to get a penalty for running it, and that sounds crazy to me, but that intake made 26 more horsepower than that intake. So I got to lose a 100-pound penalty, plus I added 26 more horsepower. That's the reason the next race we had went from 70s to 50s like that. And it's that simple. So I hope this helps the guy that left a comment about wanting to see inside the bread boxes. But if you get this, this is the gist of what they're doing. Like I said, it's not rocket science. Some may go a little bit more severe angle. Some may roll the port up a little bit like that. Some may come out and be flat and break down. But at the end of the day, this is what they're doing to the bread boxes to make them perform so good. And to me, they're a very awesome intake because you have so much room in here to do whatever you want. So hope this answers your question. If anybody else wants has any more questions or wants to know anything else, just leave it in the comments below, and we'll hook you up. Hey guys, Chris Dunn here, aka the Boogeyman. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Breadbox Intakes 101. If you have any more questions or just leave in the comments what you want to know. We're trying our best to get to whatever you guys want to know about within, telling all our secrets. So happy 4th of July 2022. Do me a favor. Remember, like, subscribe, and please hit that notification button. Chris Dunn, a.k.a. the Boogeyman.